In today's video, how to build muscle and lose fat for women.
All by myself.
Hey guys, before we start today's video, I want to remind you that Daraja has a fantastic YouTube channel. Click below to subscribe. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Rebell from ProPhysique.com. Thank you for joining me for today's video, and I have a special guest if you didn't already know.
It's me.
This is Daraja Hill, IFBB Bikini Pro and Arnold competitor for 2020.
Ooh.
For those that don't know, that's a big deal. But what we're going to talk about today is the specifics around building muscle and losing fat for women and how that is different for men. And I like to have Daraja help us out because, well, she's done an amazing job over the last couple of years, and I'll try to include some pictures. And we'll talk about your journey, and then we'll talk a little bit about the science behind how it is impacted differently between men and women. And first, I want to start with nutrition, okay? So anytime we're talking about putting on muscle and losing body fat, the biggest asset that we have is our diet. So Daraja, with your background in sports and playing tennis and now in bodybuilding, how has your nutrition shifted now that you've become a physique athlete?
It has shifted quite significantly, and most definitely for the better. I used to eat pretty much anything and everything I wanted, paid no attention really to what I was putting in my body. I ate a lot of Chick-fil-A, I ate a lot of Panda Express, and I don't know, a lot of cereal. Didn't really care much about protein intake. I love carbs and I love fats, so that's what I ate.
Well, the good news for Daraja was she was super active, and so as someone who was probably hyperactive, played a lot of sports, calories were just a necessity for you to be successful.
Yeah, as a tennis player, I mean, you're sprinting pretty much the entire time, running a lot for hours at a time.
Yes, and so the biggest difference that I find between men and women when it comes to diet is that typically women start to restrict their calories at a younger age because they become much more aware of body composition, body shape, and you know, we can blame social media or we can blame the media in general for portraying women a certain way, but it doesn't change the fact that most women start dieting at some point, oftentimes in even middle school and high school, to lose weight. You didn't have that experience.
No, I looked up to Beyonce a lot, and she had a big old butt, and I was like, I want that. So I ate and ate so I could eventually grow a butt, but that's just not what puberty had in mind for me, but that's okay.
So when I met Daraja, she was already getting into this idea of competing, and I don't think she had maybe the best approach to her nutrition and training. And we've been able to do something pretty remarkable, and that is, over the last 2 years, we've been able to lose body fat and gain muscle often at the same time.
Yes.
And this is a concept that I think sometimes can be kind of downplayed. You know, a lot of people think you can only build muscle when you're in a surplus and you can only lose fat when you're a caloric deficit. Now, while the latter is true, the former is not. And there are a few factors that go into determining if you will be able to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. The first would be training age. That's right. So if you have some extra body fat and you haven't been resistance training for a while, well, you have the opportunity to recomp completely by losing fat and gaining muscle at the same time. So let's talk about how your body started to change when you got in the gym and started training.
So nutrition aside, because I wasn't paying much attention to my nutrition more closely than when I started lifting, because it did kind of matter. I started to notice when I ate, you know, a certain way, I'd feel better and I could, you know, really perform better in the gym. But it definitely wasn't what it is today. But I did notice, you know, I started to kind of do what I didn't know then but know now as a body recomposition. So I started to build muscle all in my lower body, really. That did change a bit in, you know, my body. I saw more lines, you know, places I didn't see them before, but I stayed away from upper body lifting because I was scared of getting bulky.
Well, that's another kind of common myth amongst most female lifters, is that if you start to lift heavy, that you'll get bulky. As you can see, she's not getting bulky and she lifts extremely heavy. But this is the other concept that comes into how do you build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. So one is training age, because you can change your body composition just through resistance training while losing body fat and in a caloric deficit, because your body's been underperforming for years. You haven't actually put it through the stresses that it's capable of responding to. But the second is how are you training? So just because you've been training for a long time, it's possible that if you enter a proper training program where you periodize your lifting and get stronger and pay attention to training volume, well, what happened when we kind of got into that mold this year?
My body responded like crazy.
Yeah.
Really. It was, because I was pretty much doing my own training kind of intuitively, which, I mean, was intense, but it was different. It wasn't from as educated as you are, obviously, because this is what you do.
But you went in and did what you enjoyed, got a nice little pump.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So when we started doing that, that's when the third factor came into play. So the third factor that really allows someone to put on muscle and lose body fat at the same time, especially someone like Daraja, is going to be genetic potential. And that's something that I did a video on yesterday. How do you know if you have good genetics? And really there's only one way to know. Let's get in there and do something and see what happens. You can look at your parents, you can look at your family, you can look at those around you. But I think back to like Michael Jordan. Nobody in his family was over 6 foot tall, and yet he ended up being 6'6".
You look at my
Had he
parents.
not started playing basketball at an early age, who's to say he wouldn't have been who he was? He didn't know that he had that potential in him. Same thing with someone like Daraja, where we talk about when you start lifting weights, you start seeing these changes. And now we might look at Daraja and think, wow, she has all this genetic greatness. But if I can find you some old pictures of Daraja, the ones I've seen, it's not necessarily apparent until you put the work in.
Yeah, my mom was a distance runner, and my dad was a tall, lanky tennis player. So you can't look at my parents or my family history and say that it was obvious from the start.
Right. And just to make things clear, Daraja is a lifetime drug-free bodybuilder. So I know it's easy to point at that because I've seen many bodybuilders that were natural, that were capable of putting on more muscle than other people who had maybe below average genetics that were even on steroids. Mm-hmm. So there still needs to be the potential there to put on muscle. But when you take care of nutrition, you haven't been training that long, and you have good genetics, well, women can put on muscle at a fantastic rate. So when it comes to diet, what was the major change that you felt allowed your lifting to kind of be enhanced? Was there anything nutritionally that you started doing differently?
Definitely more protein. I did not prioritize protein at all. I'm not someone that enjoys just eating. I don't crave protein. That's just not how I am. I love sweets and I love fats. I love nut butters. So now I eat way more protein, probably than, the general daily recommendation, but as a part of my sport, and building muscle, really prioritizing recovery, eating enough protein is extremely important, and trying to lay down the foundation for all of that.
Yeah, we have Daraja at 140 grams of protein, and she's close to the 120 pound mark. So that's actually more than a gram per pound, even of her weight. But science has shown, I've linked it before, guys, when we're in a caloric deficit trying to lose body fat, overeating a little bit of protein can actually prevent muscle breakdown. So for those of us that want to keep all our muscle while getting shredded, protein is a great way to do that. And it's probably the first thing we hear about when we get into the sport of bodybuilding. So anything else you want to add about the idea of females losing body fat, building muscle?
No, I mean, and don't think that too, that birth control is a factor in keeping you from losing body fat and gaining lean mass. I am on birth control. I've been on birth control since I started my competition journey, and I have not had a problem. If you are having issues, that might be something that you want to look at with your doctor or get some hormones tested, because it could be something else.
Yeah, there are different strengths of birth control, so that's something to pay attention to as well. But you don't want to have the problem that you might have if you stop taking birth control, which would be a baby. So if that's something you are not interested in, I think that trumps a little bit of muscle.
Yes, it does.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for us today. Remember, go follow Daraja's road to the Arnold Classic this year. She's got a fantastic YouTube channel, fantastic Instagram. I'll link all that out here on the channel for you guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.